episode 5. The name is Gambit. Remember it. And it's your boy Icon with a Marvel animated TV review. And apparently, in this particular episode, we say goodbye to a true Mon Ami. And I was really trying to like avoid spoilers because episodes for this show, like, they debut on Wednesdays, and I wasn't able to watch it on Wednesday. I wasn't able to actually watch the episode and do my review until Sunday. So I tried my best to stay off of social media and stay away from spoilers, but it was hard. And then I saw little clips and little lines from people. People were saying like, "Oh, this was the greatest episode of all time," and I was talking to a colleague about that, and he was basically just saying because we haven't had any good superhero animated television in a long time, people are just like over exaggerating based on like something good that they get. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm like, it was probably a good episode, but I'm like, the greatest episode of all time is like a little crazy, but it was a good episode. Like, it was definitely like, it touched on all the heartstrings. And like I said, Sherry, we've lost we lost a true Mon Ami. So let's and this makes a couple of X-Men now, so it seems like the X-Men are being picked off here because in every episode, like, something happens to somebody. But in this particular episode, it starts off in Genosha because Magneto and Rogue and Gambit, they're on their way to Genosha because Genosha is now part of the United Nations. And the decision was made because one of the members of the United Nations Council, they've been appointed as a member of the Genosha Council as they work with like relations back and forth for the mutant people and for the regular human race. But they need a leader of Genosha. Like, there's no president in Genosha. Like, Genosha has a council, but they don't have like a leader. They don't have a president. They don't have a king. They don't have someone in charge. So they brought them in so this way they can ask Magneto to be like the overlord, like the king of Genosha. Now, some other characters came back. We saw good old Kurt disappearing and popping up. And the woman who was brought on to be the council, the human council member for Genosha, I feel like that's Mystique. Like, don't think, out of all the episodes that we've seen so far, do not think that one of these people are not Mystique in disguise. Like, I guarantee you, somebody is Mystique in disguise here. And I think it might be this woman who's on the Genosha Council. So they're talking and everybody's having a conversation. Gambit's still hating on Magneto because of the whole Rogue dynamic. And then that's when the council asks Magneto, they're just like, "Oh, we want you to be king of Genosha." And then he said that he'll agree to do it on one condition, that Rogue becomes his queen. So then Rogue, she's thinking about it. She goes and talks to Gambit about it. And then she basically told him, she was like, "Bro, like, I know me and you have a thing going, but I'm about to choose Magneto." And then he was just like, "Oh, you broke my heart, Sherry." And then, she's just like, "Oh, but I can't touch you, Remy." And he was just like, "But we've been doing it for so long." And he's like, "You turn your back and this man will betray you." And they did this whole thing. It's very emotional. And then, like, she says, well, she didn't say anything. He basically just got up and walked away. Like, he should have. So they're at the party now. And while they're at the party, Magneto shows up. Madeline Pry is there, like the clone Madeline, the gene clone Madeline. She's there because she's also a member of the council. While she was at the party, she was having a psychic conversation with Scott Summers, and then Jean Grey the actual Jean found out about that, and then she got mad because she was like, "Oh, psychic conversations were supposed to be our thing." But I'm like, he's been having conversations with this chick for God knows how long. And the two of them got into an argument, and then he was like, "Oh, if you love the clone mother of your child, then go be with her." And then Scott was like, "Woman," he was like, "Do you even love me, or are these just planted memories that makes you think that you love me?" And so the two of them now have this whole big thing. Turns out a lot of arguing, and then they get mad and like they walk away. So then Rogue and Magneto, they have a dance, and then while they were dancing, that's when, like, they kissed. They actually kissed on the dance floor, and that was the moment where Rogue realized she was making a mistake, because she said that despite the fact that because we even got the Magneto backstory about how Rogue and Magneto first became a couple, but she said that although he's the only person that she can touch because of his magnetism power, she said at the end of the day, she said that, like, she quoted Gambit, and she said that, some things are, like, deeper than skin or whatever. And then she realized that she actually does care about Remy more. And I guess she wanted to be with him, and she didn't want to be with Magneto. And then at that moment, while Madeline was on the balcony, basically, doing God knows what, maybe smoking a joint, whatever she was doing, Cable shows up. Good old Cable shows up. And then when Cable showed up, Madeline looked him in the eyes. And then that's when Madeline realized that Cable is her son. The same son that Bishop took into the future to try to cure him of the plague. See, now the plague thing makes sense. And I'm trying to remember, back in the old X-Men in the 90s, when the plague was actually going around and Bishop and Cable were there and we were trying to stop this whole plague before they eventually gave it to Logan and his mutant healing, like, came up with the cure, did we find out in the 90s that Cable was Scott and Jean's child? Like, did we know that back then, or is this like a new revelation that we got now? But anyway, because I forgot, because it's been so long, I forgot. But it's been revealed that Cable is actually Scott and Jean's son. Scott and Madeline's son. And he came to warn them about the Genosha attack with the Sentinels, because at that moment, because he was just like, I'm sorry, Mom. He's like, get everybody out of here. And then he disappeared, and I guess he went back to the future. So then the Sentinels showed up, and then when the Sentinels showed up, they basically murdered everybody. They were killing all the people. They were killing the Morlocks. Like, people were dying. And then while people were dying, Gambit, Rogue, and Magneto, they were trying to like save the people of Genosha. And then in the end, it turned into a situation where Magneto trying to save the Morlocks, it was perceived that he was destroyed because they were using like their energy beams to try to like destroy Magneto, and he was using his magnet power to protect him and to cover him and the Morlocks. And then after a while, the beam came, this huge explosion happened, and then we didn't see Eric anymore. So it's been presumed that he was disintegrated, but I don't think he's dead because, again, no body, no death. So I think the master of magnetism will be back again. So then after that, Rogue gets upset, and then she goes after the Sentinel robots, and before she reaches the Sentinels were going to blast her, but then Gambit interfered. He knocked Rogue out of the way, and then Gambit went after the Sentinel robots himself. And when he was about to like deal them the final blow, one of them took like one of like their tentacle wires and stuck it into his side. And then while he was bleeding, he used his mutant power to light up that cable that was in his ribs. It went into the Sentinel robot, and the entire Sentinel robot blew up and was destroyed. But the problem with that is it was still attached to Gambit, so he got cooked like along the way. And then Gambit was on the floor, and Rogue was holding his lifeless body, and he looked disintegrated, like his hair was missing and everything. He was basically burnt. And then she was holding him and she was crying. And then before the episode ended and faded to black, she said, "I can't feel you." And that doesn't mean he's dead either. I mean, I know in the beginning I said, we say goodbye, but I'm like, yeah, he might be gone for a couple of episodes. We might find out in the next episode they're like, oh, he's just in a coma or he's in intensive care. Like, it was just very weird how that whole episode ended, where it's like, I don't think Gambit's dead either. And even if Gambit is dead, because Cable came into the mix, whatever happened at Genosha with the whole thing with Genosha being disintegrated and being destroyed and all those, they're not going to kill all these mutants on an X-Men show. So the whole thing with Cable's going to come back. They're going to go to the future or go to the past. They're going to do time travel. Like, time travel is coming. And whatever happens from a time travel standpoint is going to be used to correct the situation of Genosha. They're going to save the people of Genosha. They're going to save Remy. They're going to save Magneto by doing time travel with Cable and saving all of humanity. It's going to be awkward as shit because now they know that Cable is the son of Scott and Madeline. That's going to be awkward for Jean. And even with that, it was already awkward because back at the mansion, a TV reporter came in and she was interviewing all of the X-Men because they're trying to like repair relations between the mutants and the humankind. So a reporter came in, she was doing an interview where she was having a conversation with them individually. And when she was talking to Scott specifically, Scott, he was just talking to her and he was just like, yes, we try to help people, we try to save people. But then she had mentioned the child because she was like, oh, I heard you had a child. And he said, no, Jean and I don't have children. And then the reporter said, but I got documentation here that says that you and Jean Grey do have a child. So she was like, why would you lie? And now obviously he's not going to tell her about the clone. He's not going to bring up the whole clone thing. But then he was just like, oh, I lied because, the human race is ungrateful. We put our lives on the line. We die for you. We save your lives, and you don't give us a thank you. All you do is ridicule us, and you want to destroy us. So he said that I'm glad I'm not human because if I wasn't human, you'd all be dead. You know what I'm saying? So you might want to start being a little bit more grateful. And then he gets mad and he storms out. And then that's when he has the conversation with Madeline, and then him and Jean get into an argument. And then after him and Jean get into the argument, like Jean was outside trying to work on her powers, and then Logan showed up, and then she ended up kissing Logan, and then Logan was just like, oh shit. And then he was just like, nah, he was like, go back to your husband, because he said that it's supposed to be you and Scott, not this old guy. But I'm like, there's two Jeans, so it's like, let Scott be with Madeline and let Jean be with Wolverine. So, and then they all were watching the TV report where it showed the devastation of Genosha, and then they were just like, how many died? And they were like, too many died. And then said that all they could do was just watch, at that point, just watch the destruction. So I guess we never got a part 2 of the Storm episode, but now that everything's been destroyed, I guess the X-Men are going to be on their way to Genosha, because we need to figure out who released that Sentinel robot on Genosha anyway. And that's why, and see, even me, it was stupid for them. It's not so much, it wasn't a dumb thing to tell the government that Genosha wants to be a part of the UN. The problem was, you should not have let them know your location. Even when they brought Homegirl over to Genosha, they should have blindfolded her or did some shit, because now that people know where you are, of course they're going to release the hounds, and stick the robots on you. So that was it. So the way the episode ended, thank you for tuning in, it was perceived that both Gambit and Magneto are dead. That is clearly not going to be the case. And it also seems that in every single episode, we lost Storm. You know what I'm saying? We lost Charles Xavier before. We quote unquote lost Gambit. We lost Magneto. It seems that in every single episode, a member of this team is getting picked off. We almost lost Jubilee, but she got out of her situation with the whole video game thing. Somebody is specifically targeting these people and trying to pick them off one by one. Maybe it's Jean. And that's another thing. When Jean quote unquote escaped captivity, we never found out where she was, how she escaped, the backstory of how she was put in this. For all they know, Jean is if you've watched Young Justice, where Roy Harper was a brainwashed clone, this might be the exact same situation. They might be ripping off Young Justice here. Everybody was so happy that the real Jean Grey returned. Nobody even bothered to think about whether or not she could be brainwashed or mind controlled, and could she be a double agent for Sinister? Or maybe they did think that, and because Jean has the mind control power, she's blocked everyone's mind from answering those questions. But we'll see. Share your questions, comment. It might turn out to be that Madeline's the good guy here and Jean Grey is the villain. But share your questions, comments, and concerns, and we'll continue to talk about it. So check me out on Instagram and/or X. Always on YouTube, where you can leave your questions, comments, and concerns. Hit the notification bell, hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I got a whole lot of stuff coming up as the months progress, and we will continue to do more of X-Men. So that was it, guys. So thank you for tuning in. Tune next week for so more X-Men 97 action. Stay locked on Realize Entertainment, and for the love of God, remember it, because we're out this bitch.